What do I think that's happening? Well, I do know that you're being lied to by all your corporate media and all of the people that's basically involved in it. You see, you only have to look back at what's going on at the period of the time to realise it fits into a sequence of events. For a long time now, the people who rule the world, which we call the Illuminati, they have been in a situation where they're becoming more and more outmanoeuvred by the people that want a better world. Should we call them the Earth's allies, and the people who care for the planet, which includes several of the groups within the Pentagon and the White Dragon Society. And these people have been putting pressure on the Illuminati and particularly removing from them their assets or access to finance in the form of gold and the other precious metals. Therefore, when we understand that, it suddenly gives you a different picture of the reality. For we know that we are about to be introduced what's known as Nasara law. Now, Nasara law spreads on a more equal society and is based on the revaluation of companies and the world's money supply. That's what the RV stands for, revaluation. And they're now creating an alternative supply of money. But the money that they're supplying is going to be backed by gold and precious metals. So in the paper, instead of just making aspects on it, it's backed by real material wealth. That's the last thing the Illuminati want, who use fiat money and fractional bank loaning to create vast amounts of wealth for themselves, which has no basis in reality. To stop them doing this, they decided that we would get our whole attention by fighting yet another world war, as the two previous world wars were also instigated by the cabal that rules the world, or the Illuminati. So to make sure that we could fight each other and to do this, they orchestrated in the cabal's areas of influence secret services societies to go into a Russian country and destabilise it. That country, of course, was the Ukraine, knowing full well that Russia, being a Russian country, would invade it and protect their civilization and their citizens. This they did. At first it was only small amounts of troops, but then Putin decided he would take the entire country. It's at that point that columns of tanks were dispatched from their bases to enter Ukraine. We all know from the media on the 6th, 7th and 8th that these columns of tanks were dispatched, but then no one explains why, but they returned back to their base. Why did they return back to their bases? Well, the answer lies on the internet. Please download the internet and look at UFO over the Ukraine on the 6th, 7th and 8th of March. This is a 3,000 foot long UFO. It's not a UFO. It's a Federation starship of the Galactic Federations of Light, and it's actually a Syrian defence ship. This was flown or occupied or activated by the head of the Galactic Federations of Light, and their sole intent and purposes is to wake up all the people on the planet to what's really going on and allow us to evolve in our consciousness into the higher levels of frequency, which we call the ascension. At present time, and for the last 20,000 years, this Illuminati has controlled us. They tried to bring in the Third World War, and it was stopped in its tracks. So what was this UFO doing? It was filmed by Russia and announced on the Russian television. It was also then filmed by most of the Kabbalistic countries, which includes our country. None of the media across the rest of the world showed any footage or pictures of the UFO, which is freely available on the internet. Why did they do that? Or why didn't they do that? Because, of course, the last thing that the people who rule the world want to know is that we have been lied to by our governments, our religions and our financial institutions. And basically, so the money, power and wealth can remain in the hands of a very small select few. This is what the yes to the universe wants to be exposed, so that we can take our rightful place and we can then regain our own personal sovereignty and our fully expanded consciousness. So the truth needs to come out, the light of truth. What's the saying? Let the light of truth set you free. So when you know the real workings of the universe and what's going on, you're able to understand and make decisions in life based on the truth, rather than what you're told. You need to download off the internet the original radar map of the interception of the plane at the time. Now, radar maps, planes and vehicles and blobs do not just appear out of anywhere. They have to take off from land, and when they come into the scope of the field, it works through. Please look at this original radar map, and on the right hand side of the territories, on the right hand side of the map, you'll suddenly see appear a sphere, a circular shape, which then, after a few seconds, changes into a plane, the shape of a plane. This appeared from nowhere. At the same time, a secondary one appears slightly high and north of the flight path of 370, which also appeared from nowhere. And I believe there was another one. Now this second one that appeared suddenly takes an increase of speed. It travels at 5 times the speed of the other planes. When you take that as an average speed of somewhere between, shall we say, minimum of 400 miles an hour to 600 miles an hour, you've suddenly got a plane that's doing 3,000 miles an hour. And no plane can do that. Doesn't fit in. And of course you now know, as the blob appeared as a UFO, a circular disc, now we don't need to tell you where it's gone. So now you need to quite understand that the plane was taken aboard a UFO. Why was the plane taken aboard a UFO? Because it was in trouble. The way it was flying at the end, which you can see on the actual snap, it was weaving slightly from side to side because its hydraulics had jammed and it was flying upwards. So it was soon to become destroyed. To prevent that, and to realise that they needed to get the information out to the world, the Galactic Federations of Light took the ship on board one of their UFOs. And that has created a total worldwide interest. Every newspaper, every television, every country is going all on about this plane and the passengers aboard. Once the passengers were aboard, it was explained to them where they were, who they are, and it was explained what was going on. And they are now delighted to be used by the extraterrestrials, which of course are our children, our star children, and our parents, as the formation or the beginning of a world, weapons, war-free and at peace. For one of the installations that the Galactic Federation of Light has asked to is for the entire world to collect together their weapons of mass destruction and place them in positions so that the ETs can vaporize them. And then they've instructed that all of our soldiers are to return their barracks, hand in their weapons and uniforms, and return to their communities. And of course, when that happens, we'll have a war free. Now they're also making it quite plain. The extraterrestrials do not want to control us, invade us or dominate us, which is why they've been seen in the sky for hundreds of years without interfering. They have observed us. In fact, you've been told about this throughout history in all of our books. It's known as the Watchers, who watch what we're doing, and they have allowed us total free will. However, they have now decided to step in, and they're going to prevent any nuclear detonations in military aspects. And all of a sudden, we have the potential of a free world. These people are on a different place. I know where they are. I'm not prepared to tell too many people that exact aspect. But the reality falls that there are people on this planet who have the ability to go and attack and invade where they are. So you might well find that they've been taken off this planet, and possibly now in Venus. You never know. They certainly raise their vibrations to a higher level. The phones still rang after the supposed crash. And it was correct when they picked up the pings off the engine heading south, because initially the plane was heading to Hollow Earth through the hole in the South Pole. And of course the phones were still ringing. So the idea is, when we have ceased searching for any people off the planes, we may well find the plane yet in the Southern Ocean. If they find the plane, there's certainly not going to be any bodies or people on it. And when that's realised, and our governments announce it, that it's completed and finished with, it's at that point that these people will ring their relatives, and those will let them know who are safe. They'll also explain what's going on. So I look forward to, in the next few months, to have the Earth start its period of peacefulness, where you will be called upon to play your part, for you to form new governance, new understanding, based on equality and a fairness. And that is not democracy. It's not any of the aspects we've tried. It is, however, councils of 12s and elders, and every single person on the planet will be in a council of 13 people. And by any means, that group of 13 people could be in the same family, could be in 3 neighbours, or could be spread across many miles of countryside in farms. These people will get together and they will select between them a leader. And each of the other people in the group will be given a period of time when they will be the leader next, in sequence. That leader will then sit on a council of 12 leaders, overseeing 144 people. All they will have to do is visit every single person in their group every day, or make contact with them if they're on holiday. So no one else ever will be left alone on the planet. And of course, that group of 12 beings will be sit in position exactly 1 year. At the end of 12 months, that group will sit together and discuss all of the decisions they've made. And by any method whatsoever in that group they wish, they will select a leader to go to the next level up. And the rest of the group will return to the base group, to be replaced by the second person in the base group who has got that number for the next level. At the same time, that one who's gone up will sit in a council of 12 groups, overseeing 12 groups of 12. So they will be in charge of 1,728 people. And this time what they're required to do is to understand that they have responsibility. So if there's any problems or things that people need beneath, that information will be passed on to higher groups who can sort out what's required. That group will meet again for exactly 12 months, and on exactly the same day as the groups beneath them break up, they will discuss every single thing they've made, because one thing's for certain: every single person in a council will be totally responsible for every one of their actions and decisions. They will then return, and that third group will now collect together to go to the 4th level, who will then sit in a council of 12 people, overseeing groups of 12, overseeing groups of 12. And now you've got a tremendous amount of people being controlled. This is the level of responsibility. And in the 4th group, only people who have lived on the planet long enough to be able to understand life, not to have been indoctrinated, who've actually lived it and experienced it, will therefore be in the positions of power to redistribute and to govern or control, not even govern and control, to guide mankind and humanity. Any children, of course, that were born under the age of 16 will remain in the group until they reach the right age, in which case they can fill the gaps in or move to other groups.